Hello, and welcome.
This is the What If I Told You podcast, a show of conspiracies, cults, murders, and mysteries. I'm Emily.
And I'm Maddie. And you can tune in every Tuesday for your weekly dose of weird. We only ask that you be kind.
And stay weird.
Okay, goodbye.
This show is brought to you by the Deluxe Edition Network. Head over to the den.show for other great podcasts.
Oh my. Oh my.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Deluxe Edition. I'm Bill Sebald here with Casey Shearer. I love saying your name like that. It's such a fun name. Casey Shearer. How you doing?
How are you, sir? Good. How are you?
I'm okay. It's been a busy week, and it's only Monday.
I know.
and we started every once in a while. We miss our Sunday recordings, and we end up doing them on Monday. This was a tough Monday to do. So you're like, "Hey, you ready? It's 6:00." I'm like, "Nope, not ready at all." But luckily, Casey, you actually are driving this show.
Yep.
So what do you got in store for us today?
Well, first of all, like always, the plugs. All right, let's get them over with. The plugs. We are on the Deluxe Edition Network. You can find all of the great shows over at theden.show. The podcast of the month this month is What If I Told You? It's two girls from Missouri. They're a true crime podcast. They do aliens, conspiracies, all kinds of true crime. Really good show. Check them out. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Deluxe Edition Pod. You can support our show by going to patreon.com/Deluxe Edition Pod. If you want a t-shirt, you can go over to whatamaneuver.net and find Deluxe Edition. We have Deluxe Edition Network t-shirts over there, as well as Deluxe Edition podcast shirts. And if you'd like to go back into our catalog of shows, you can find every show over at deluxeedition.show. Anything else, Bill? Did I miss anything?
We strongly discourage it because we were terrible back then.
See, I, on the other hand, highly recommend going back to our older shows and seeing how much we have changed.
Ooh. We were just talking about it on the last episode. We're not monotone anymore, so that's good.
Yeah.
Welcome to Deluxe Edition.
You can find us over on Deluxe Edition Pod on Instagram.
Ooh, that's some good broadcasting. Everybody should be monotone. Could you imagine? Like I don't, I got into this podcasting really sort of as a fan of radio, and radio guys have that voice, but you never really get there's no like iconic podcaster voice. Stern always talks about the radio guy, whether it's like the Morning Zoo guy or the coming up to the next hour, we got a whole bunch of songs by the Zombies, and it's always like this, and then they hit it right on the right when the song starts. Podcasters don't really have to have a style; anything goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As shown on our network, we have a wide variety of shows on our network.
The Return of the Living Fled, he's kind of got like a streaming style, but it's still a podcast. Ours is more of a radio show style sometimes, but it's still a podcast.
Yeah. Yep. And tying into like the you said about how podcasters don't have their own like a soothing podcaster voice, like that radio voice. Getting into what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about Ric Flair's last match. Conrad Thompson. Let me start. I have like a whole list of stuff here to get into. This was a huge weekend. Conrad Thompson is one of the premier wrestling podcasters. Okay. He's actually married to one of Ric Flair's daughters. In his podcast studio, when you see it behind him, he's a belt collector. He has original screen worn, like TV worn belts, championship belts that he has acquired over the years on his big bookshelf behind him. There was a wrestler named Wahoo McDaniel. He was an Indian character. He has his headdress, like the actual headdress that he wore on screen. He's got different people's boots, their actual boots that they wore in the ring. And he does all these different podcasts with several different old wrestling personalities. And I was listening to his podcast, Arn. He did one with Arn Anderson, who was a member of the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair. And now Conrad has so many different podcasts that he's now hired like help to step in and help him do these multiple podcasts. And this guy, Paul Bromwell, has been sitting in with Arn. And whenever I turn on that podcast with Arn and Paul is on, I'm like, fuck, I miss Conrad's voice. He has one of those great podcasting voices or radio voices.
No, really? Why? Why is it good?
I don't know. It's just he's like got a southern drawl. It's just he's really good at it.
Yeah, I don't know the secret of a good podcast voice. I think anything you can get used to and find attractive is good enough, because you listen to all the voices. Everybody's got a different voice. But the thing is, I don't think anybody ever gets into a voice that is just monotone. I just don't think it's attractive enough. I like people who, and I've always liked George Carlin for this. He talks about when he tells his jokes, it's rhythmic. The way he uses his words, everything is rhythmic, and it kind of keeps you engaged. And I just see a lot of podcasters that just talk like they're hanging out in the room. Like, go back to your fucking room. Leave the bandwidth for shows that are trying to entertain their audience and trying to be performers. Right. So this one guy was really good, and then they swapped him out with somebody else, and it totally changed the dynamic of the show. That's how important it is to have the right type of broadcasters.
Yeah. If I'll see in the description Paul joins Arn this week, I won't even listen. I just don't like him as a podcaster. He like tries too hard, I think. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to put on a character and tries to like engage with Arn and like tries to get him to laugh and stuff. And it's like, dude, you're not funny.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. How many radio guys have gotten on in like little markets and never gone anywhere? They never went to a bigger city because they just weren't very good. I don't know what the trick is. I never made it in the radio. I mean, we're only on this podcast now for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And sure, it's going well and we're getting really good feedback and it's fun to have fans. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, we're still pretty new at this. So I'm not sure what the thing is that people look for. I was thinking when we got off our last podcast, I wrote to you, I said, shit, man, I was a little too hyper. I was shot out of a cannon. Like, it just depends on the mood you're in. Like, I don't have a style yet. Did these podcasters think about their style? Do they think about their delivery like they did with radio and like musicians do when they're in front of a microphone? I don't know. Maybe some of the fun of podcasting is you don't do any of that shit. It's unregulated. There's no parent company saying, make sure you say the call letters, make sure you sound like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. I started out when we started doing this, I was like, look, I think it's got to be a certain way or it's going to suck. It's going to fall to the wayside like billions of other podcasts that never get past 11 episodes. But the more it grows, and we're still in the early days of it, the more I like that I think it's going to branch out into different types of shows. I think people haven't quite realized that there are categories of podcasts. And I don't mean topics. I mean types. Because a lot of the ones you listen to are ones that I don't listen to. Like, I like a good, structured show that says this is what we're going to talk about. Almost like I'm listening to like I'm at school watching one of those film strips that they used to put on at school. It's got a start, it's got a lesson, and it's got an end. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I like those. And you're definitely a fan of, the just kicking around ideas. So, yeah, it'll be real interesting to see where podcasting is in about 5 more years and then 10 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to terrestrial radio?
Oh, I think that's nearly dead. The other day I had to borrow a car that wasn't mine, and I was listening to like one of those pre-programmed radio stations that has like no announcer because it's all just, dude, it was nothing. It was so boring. Commercials. Like, I was like, if I had any way I was in a shitty old car. If I had any way to plug in my phone, like immediately I'd plug it in and listen to my music or listen to, an internet radio station that's highly tuned into what I like. There's just no way that terrestrial stays around much longer. Once all these cars can have your phone plug right in and Google Android and Apple Play and all that, really become mainstream, who's going to want a radio? I'm going to plug in my phone and then turn on the local radio station. Who gives a shit about the local radio station? You end up going to what you love, which is like, this style of music, these bands, and there's a radio station for every human being out there.
Yeah. If I will get into a rental car and it doesn't work with my Android Auto, I will switch cars.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm finding this problem now that I'm done with vacations. I don't know if this is a real problem everybody's had, or I just had a bunch in a row. But every house I've gone to with the Airbnbs has had has had Roku. So, I go in and I see people forgot to log out. Then I'm kind of like, so am I going to watch movies on their account? Because I sure don't feel like logging out and typing in those characters
Right.
with the remote,
Yeah.
So I've done that. I've been watching movies on somebody else's Netflix, somebody else's fucking Amazon, whatever. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. People got to remember to log out of their shit when they leave houses.
Right. Yeah, that's happened to me a bunch of times. Like they're in hotels, they're putting a lot of those Roku TVs and smart TVs in the room where you can, watch YouTube, whatever. You can do all kinds of streaming, Netflix. It's right on the TV. And like you said, like, yeah, people forget to log out. It's like that's the first thing I do. It's like before I start packing for the day to, you know what I mean? I log out.
You know what I'm gonna do next time I see it? Like, I'm just gonna go into like their Netflix and look up every like dirty, filthy movie, so that their recommended list is gonna be like absolute smut. Like they're gonna be like, why does Netflix suddenly think I'm into Dirk Diggler movies or something? Dirk Diggler, what was that? Who's Dirk Diggler? Oh, he's from Boogie Nights. Yeah,
Yeah, Boogie Nights. Yeah, Marky Mark, right?
yeah. I don't think Netflix has any other porn, but maybe Boogie Nights. So
Yeah.
that joke went nowhere. Failed. Terribly, awfully. Anyway, so you were talking about this guy. You got to remind me who he was. I remember him in WWF. I actually have a funny. I met him. Did I ever tell you that I met him?
Ric Flair?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. But Ric Flair got his start back in the 70s. He was a 16-time world champion for the NWA. It was Jim Crockett Promotions. He toured the country. He was like a traveling champion. He toured the country. Remember how we talked before about independent promotions and the different territories of promotions around the country before Vince, sort of grabbed everything up?
Yeah.
So like a promotion would hire Ric Flair or whoever like the NWA champion was to come into their territory to wrestle their main guy to get sales up for that week, So he was like a huge deal back 70s and 80s. And then I believe it was the 90s was when he first went to WWF. And this is something I've heard. Like he wasn't as big as he was in WCW when he got to WWF. He had a pretty good run, but from what I've heard about Vince McMahon is that if he didn't create it, he didn't really care about pushing the product. Like he didn't really care about like if most people, like unless it was their real name, like Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, they came into WWF, or yeah, they still use their real names. A lot of times guys would come over, like Mick Foley. We talked about him last week where the Undertaker threw him off. When he came into WWF, he came from WCW. He was Cactus Jack in WCW. And then when he came to WWF, he was Mankind. Eventually, when Vince bought WCW, they resurrected the Cactus Jack character. And then he actually had another character after that too, Dude Love, which is pretty cool. But
Dude Love.
Tell me your Ric Flair story, dude.
Hold on. His name was Dude Love?
Yeah.
That's a badass name.
Dude, real quick, before we get into anything else, Mick Foley is you've heard of Cameo?
Yeah.
He is absolutely the best cameo guy. I started watching listening to his podcast. He also does it on YouTube. He does a cameo at the end of every podcast, like just as like a treat, and he does it in all characters. He has to have but he has to call himself Man in a Mankind Mask because of copyright issues with Vince. So it's like this cheap Mankind mask that he got from China. It's like all falling apart. So he'll take his phone, like he'll do the cameo and he'll start as Mick Foley. He's like, "Hey, this is Mick Foley. We heard that you have a birthday coming up, and a friend of mine is here, and he wants to say hello." And he'll put his phone down real quick and put the mask on. And hi, this is Mankind, Man in a Mankind Mask. He'll do his character, and then he'll go, "Hold on, there's one other friend here," and he'll put the phone back, take that off, and throw the Dude Love stuff on. And, hey, you cool cat, and he'll do this fucking
Oh man,
It's so great. He does all 3 characters in one cameo.
and he's got to do these 3 characters every day. Wow, that's funny. There's a guitar player named Buckethead. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, Buckethead. He wears a white mask, like a ghost mask, kind of like Michael Myers, and he wears a chicken bucket on his head. He wears a goddamn KFC chicken bucket, and he's such an amazing guitar player. But the guy in real life is super, super introverted, so he wears that mask to sort of be brave and get up there. And he was doing a thing because Buckethead doesn't talk. Brian talks, the real guy, right? But nobody really knows his real name is Brian. He's done a good job of kind of like, the internet leaks everything eventually. So he will do interviews. When he was doing interviews, he really doesn't do them very often. So I guess they were like, look, dude, you're not going to sell records if you don't start doing interviews. He's probably like, Buckethead doesn't talk. What the fuck am I going to do? So he got a puppet, right? He's like, well, Buckethead thinks, as he's flapping his puppet, and the puppet looks like a mutant monster because Buckethead's whole thing is mutants. It was like, oh my God, get rid of the puppet. I'd rather not hear this guy talk than have to listen to this guy talk through a puppet.
With the bucket on his head, he did that.
With the bucket. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like this stick's running a little old. Then he goes and plays guitar, and you forget all about how silly the rest of it is.
Yeah, amazing guitar player.
He is amazing. He is a freak. Some people just kind of grow up in this world, in their entertainment world, whether it's wrestling or guitar, and just go, I'm just going to make it up my own way. Those guys are always the most amazing. And sometimes they just don't get the love, and they should. Yeah. Everybody's so busy just worshiping Machine Gun Kelly is the greatest musician ever. And meanwhile, there's like 10 billion people that invented brand new music, and they're never getting any goddamn airplay, so nobody ever finds them.
Yeah.
Life is sad.
Very sad.
Oh, how'd I meet this guy?
Yeah, tell me your Ric Flair story, and then Ric Flair story, Bill's news, and then I'll run down the breakdown of the Ric Flair's last match.
Oh yeah, Bill's news. So I was sitting on some news items I want to share with you. See if people find this interesting. See if people find these news bits that I picked interesting. But so the Ric Flair, yeah, I mean, quickly I met him just because he was working with a company called Hoth. Hoth is a digital marketing company. They basically provide SEO services. So I went to a conference, right? And it's tons of people at these SEO conferences. It's like any conference, thousands of people walking around. And all of a sudden, this guy apparently is working with Hoth. I guess they hired Ric Flair. So I walk up to the thing and I'm talking to the guys, and I look to the left and there's just some guy standing there, and I don't make a connection, right? I think he was wearing a suit for some reason. And I see him kind of like every once in a while, like make a big scene and like, hey, what's up there? And waving to the crowd. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? And then as I kind of walked around him from another angle, I went, it's Ric Flair, the wrestler. That makes no sense because Ric Flair wouldn't be here. Who is this guy? And the whole day I walked by and I had no idea who he was until finally somebody said, yeah, did you see that was Ric Flair standing over at the Hoth booth? I was like, that was a real does anybody not realize who this guy is? It's a famous wrestler standing there. And I'm pretty sure nobody had any clue because it was all geeks. It was all marketing geeks. They just didn't know. Yeah, so that was weird. Yeah, and we did talk a little, but it was I think he probably only had a couple hours. I didn't see him very long. So when I started like, hey, what's up, man? It was kind of like, all right, I'm done for the day. Good luck. Buy some links. Yo, SEO. And then he was kind of out of there. So meeting him was not much of a thing. But yeah. So I was in his presence.
Cool. Yeah, I've never been in
him, though.
Yeah, I've never been in the presence of Ric Flair. Well, a couple years ago, he was in some really bad health issues. He had a bowel obstruction, I believe, and was in the hospital for a month or so, over a month maybe.
Oh, what did he eat? A bowling ball?
I don't know what it was. Apparently, it's something from alcoholism. I don't know. Over the last 40 or so years, partying after matches every night.
Yeah, after a while, I hear it gets so crazy. You just start drinking everything, and they got nothing to do but eat the bottles, and then the bottles will jam up in your colon. That's when alcoholism's really out of control. When you're taking those big Patron bottles and swallowing them. Well, how did the match go? So this was his goodbye match, right? So he's up there as an old man. He's probably going to kill himself. We talked about that.
He's 73, dude. So I just want to run down through the whole card because it was an awesome show. It was something different. They actually brought this Jim Crockett Promotions back. It hasn't been a thing in many years. Jim Crockett Promotions owned World Championship Wrestling, which was WCW, and then he sold it to Ted Turner. That's how Ted Turner got involved in the wrestling business, and it went to TBS, like the Superstation and all that. So I talked about Conrad Thompson. He's married to Ric Flair's one daughter, Megan. He runs a thing called Starcast. We talked about these conventions before that you go to. This is like a convention for wrestlers. It's a wrestling Comic-Con, which, you know, it's awesome. They have tons of different panels. They have live podcasts, Q&As. It was one of the first times that all four horsemen were on stage together in a long time. They did a Q&A. Mick Foley did a live podcast. Kevin Nash did a live podcast. It was really awesome. Just really cool to see all these old wrestlers together again, you know? So when they announced this match a couple months ago, I'm not sure exactly when they announced it, it sold out in 3 minutes and 32 seconds, which is pretty incredible. They actually had to move it so they could sell more tickets to the Nashville auditorium.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And Ric Flair's had some incredible matches in the Nashville auditorium before too. He wrestled a 60-minute match there with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat back in the 80s.
These names. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat Willie. Well, how did it end? So he wrestled. Did he live or did he die?
I gotta go through the card. I got
the card. Go backwards. Start at the bottom. Work your way up.
This was an incredible card. This isn't something that ever happens. It was several different promotions on one wrestling card, right? So David Crockett came out of retirement to announce the show with Tony Schiavone. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Never heard of him.
David Crockett, his brother, I think Jim, or maybe it was their dad, owned Jim Crockett Promotions. So they announced, which was pretty cool. They don't ever really do this anymore. They announced the Spanish announce team, which is, they used to do that on WWF pay-per-views back in the day. So they show you that it's worldwide, you know, around the world. So they actually have Spanish commentators there. The first match was the Motor City Machine Guns versus the American Wolves. These are guys that I had never seen wrestle before. It was really good. Liked it a lot. It was Impact Wrestling. They were all wrestling for Impact Wrestling, and the Motor City Machine Guns won that one. One guy was a little sloppy. He was a little old. I didn't really like him too much. Do you know what selling is?
Yeah, it's when you take stuff and you give it to somebody else for money.
Yeah, in the real world, but in the wrestling world, selling is when I get punched. When I get punched, I make it look like I got punched.
Right.
This guy got punched and he was just like not making it look good, you know? Yeah. He wasn't making the other guy look as good as he could have.
Yeah, right. If you just stand there, then the other guy looks like he can't punch.
Right.
Dude, would you fucking knock your head back? No, man. I'm going to make you look bad.
Yeah, exactly. Next match was an MLW showcase. Not really sure. I think it's Major League Wrestling. And this was Killer Cross, who used to be in the WWF as Carrion, and Davey Boy Smith Jr. Do you remember the British Bulldog from the 90s, 80s and 90s?
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, this is his son, Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Oh, no, they've spawned and they got their kids into this?
Yeah, buddy. Oh Davey's actually passed away, you know, years ago. But his kid is wrestling, not quite as big as Davey was. Great match, a lot of back and forth, a lot of heavy hitting. Really weak finish, though. I was not a fan of the finish. The dude, what was his name? Carrion or Killer Cross came across the back of the dude's, like, just his back with a forearm, and that was the end. It was, I don't know, it was kind of weak.
What was that one?
MLW, Major League Wrestling, and I believe that's in Hollywood, California.
Sounds like Mighty Lame Wrestling.
Yeah.
Am I right?
So this is, they like during the matches and stuff, they start showing celebrities in the crowd. Kid Rock was there.
Of course, Kid Rock was there. Let me get some other ones. Carrot Top.
No,
you don't think?
No, Wrestling celebrities.
I'm pretty sure, like, is Gilligan from Gilligan's Island still alive? I bet you he was there.
Bob Denver. He's definitely not alive.
The guy who made all the sounds and noises from Police Academy, I bet you he's there.
Michael Winslow that keeps blowing us off.
Oh, are you trying to reach him?
Only for months.
Oh, well, okay. Hey, how about this? Michael Winslow? Fuck off. We ain't fucking you now. How do you like that sound effect? Get the fuck out of here.
We can make our own sound effects, motherfucker.
We got our own. We understand the Doppler effect. We can do. Remember, I love the Jetsons vehicle. Use that stupid Doppler effect. Love it. All right, I don't mean to keep interrupting the card here.
You remember Will Sasso from Mad TV?
Yeah, was he a celebrity in the audience?
They showed him. Well, he was like he did a video, an on-screen video thing, like a to say,
a cameo, basically. They
right.
Paid 25. He paid his cameo fee, and they got content for $25.
Right.
Do you remember him in the Three Stooges movie? They made a Three Stooges movie. It was like a remake of Three Stooges, and I think it was the Farley brothers.
Oh my god, was that him? And
he was curly. And if it wasn't the Farley brothers, forgive me, but I think it was. And I remember watching it and liking it and being like, this isn't actually that terrible. I laughed. I enjoyed it.
I never watched it.
Yeah. Will Sasso. Curly. Who else could be curly?
I don't know.
Tom Cruise.
No one. That's something that they should not ever do.
Well, if they get the stars, salaries low enough, they know they'll get guaranteed money because there's enough fans in there that are going to be at least buying one ticket. I'm sure that's how Hollywood does it. But like, do we think we'll make at least $5? Yeah, we'll probably make $5. I greenlight it. It's got to be. I mean, some of the things these guys greenlight are terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like Fat Man. Yeah, Bill, you got to see Fat Man. It's going to be the next big movie. Yeah.
Fat Man was good.
I love that when I see what I saw. I saw a trailer the other day for. Yeah, okay, I know you'll never finish a story with me. It's just the way it goes. If you're new to the show, Casey never finishes anything he starts because I don't shut the fuck up. But I was watching like trailers, like upcoming trailers, and they had a movie with Mel Gibson, and it's one of those like it's the worst movie. Like basically they filmed it with their cell phone kind of movie, like the ones that we actually like. But when the big stars get into that, you're in trouble. Like when Nicolas Cage did his first like not Hollywood movie, it's like, now you're going to be in the convention soon. So I just saw that Mel Gibson's doing one of those movies now. And when you take Mel Gibson out of like the cinematic world where he's been and you put it like in basically like you're filming a movie with your camera, you get a different perspective of Mel Gibson. And it is awful. He looks like the worst actor in the world because they're just not giving him anything to work with. And this is a guy that knows how to make movies. He's made great movies. He's acted, he's directed in them. And now he's got to do these like, what's your fee? My fee is $30 million. I'll give you 10,000. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So Fat Man didn't take off for him, and now he's doing those movies. So it's how I told you it would go.
I still have faith that Fat Man will take off.
Fat Man. That's so funny. Fat Man.
All right, Bill. Back to the card.
Back to the card
at hand. Next up was a Ring of Honor match. Tony Khan owns AEW, also owns Ring of Honor. We talked about that last week.
And AEW is the league that you're into now. That's the big one for you.
Yep.
WWE became WWF became WWE. That's still around.
Yep.
And AEW is the last remaining contender? Or is there another league that I don't know of?
No, there's several. I mean, there's several leagues like that are kind of, right there.
But who's Pepsi and Coke? It's WWE and AEW. Would that
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because Tony Khan, his dad, owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. They own I think it's called like Fulham or Fulcrum. It's a soccer team over in England. He's a billionaire. He has just as much money, if not more, than Vince McMahon. So yeah, it's a brand new company, like 3 years. It's still basically a brand new company. But last week, after 2 weeks ago, when Vince McMahon retired, Tony Khan tweeted, Thank you to all the fans. I am now the longest tenured CEO of any wrestling company.
Yep. You outlive them. Sometimes that's how you get to the top. You just outlive them.
Yeah. So, but yeah, real quick, I might actually start watching WWE again because Vince is gone and apparently they're going to be changing some things around. Kevin Nash, that I had mentioned earlier, he announced that he's going to be working with WWE again as one of the writers. Like I said, remember we were talking about last week how they would hire people who weren't into the product, non-wrestlers. Now, Kevin Nash wrestled for 30 years. Now he's being hired as a writer. That's what you want.
I know. Look, we go back and listen to the last episode, everybody. I had a lot of fun beating up on wrestling. But I don't know. You seem to be still interested in these storylines. I'm like, oh, there's nothing left in them for me. But you get so worked up. Like, oh, my God, it's the greatest story. Like, yeah, what happened? Well, he hit this guy because he was pissed off. Uh-huh. Like, that's wrestling. Like, yeah. Like, I just, unless, like, they change something, tell me this storyline. Like, when this happens. Dude, here's the storyline. They decided to change all of wrestling to kissing. Now it's like kissing fights. Like, that would be interesting. I'd be like, okay, I gotta see. Kissmania. I'm gonna go see Kissmania 42. I'm gonna pay-per-view. I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna watch people kiss. Like, that would be more interesting than these repetitive storylines that just keep repeating. But you love it.
They don't repeat. They're not repeating storylines.
Are they talking about like alien abductions yet? Like, there's just not enough storylines. They're gonna have to get out of this planet. Has anybody showed up yet as like the god of thunder, or I'm the king of Aquarius? And like,
no, nothing like that. No. Like back in the 90s, they had that stuff. Like there was the narcissist Lex Luger.
I remember Lex Luger.
Yeah.
Because the Luger, I guess, is a gun, but where I was in Philly, a Luger was a big snotty spit.
No, that's a loogie.
We call it a Luger. There is loogie, and then in Pittsburgh they call it a hocker. We are teaching our audiences things.
Yeah.
Hit me with a Luger. You're gonna drop a loogie on them.
What's a John?
John? That wasn't where we used. How about hoagie?
Ogle.
That's the Philadelphia accent. I know right away when somebody's from Philadelphia by the way they say "oh," right? Hoagie. If it sounds like ew, then you know they're from Philadelphia. Come on, let's go. Ew. Have you finished telling the story yet?
Not yet.
We're 36 minutes in, and
I have 20 minutes left. You can talk as long as you want.
You got to edit this. You got to edit out all the unfunny stuff, which is so far 36 minutes worth of content.
All right, next match, Ring of Honor. Takeshita, Alan Angels, Nick Wayne, and Jonathan Gresham. This was a four-way. They call it a four-way dance. Anyone could win. This was anyone who wins gets a shot at the ROH Progress title. Nick Wayne, that was in the match, he's 17 years old. He's amazing. He's been wrestling around the country. He already has an AEW contract for when he turns 18.
Really? Does he have muscles?
He's pretty skinny. He's little, he's a kid. Fucking amazing though. Just, so fast paced. He does a lot of, they call him high spots. So like everything that he does is a big move, which, a lot of the older guys, they don't like that stuff. And he's just trying to they call it getting his shit in. The one like fucking awesome spot that they did, it was Nick Wayne and Alan Angels. They both got on the same turnbuckle in the corner, and their opponents were on the outside, and they both did a moonsault backflip off the top to the outside at the same exact time. It was incredible.
That blows you away? Can you jump at the same time as a friend?
Like 20 feet in the air backwards.
Sure. Yeah. On a turnbuckle?
You're a fucking idiot.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah. All right. Jonathan Gresham won that one with, they call it the Okada roll. It was a lot of back and forth, pinfall, false finishes, they call them. A lot of back and forth, and then he just cinched it up with the Okada roll.
Oh,
Pretty
is that the
awesome.
job where they're laying on their back and it's like 3, 2, and then the guy goes flop, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, he just got out." The fake finish. How do they know they're going to do that? Like the ref doesn't know that this one's going to be a fake one.
The ref always knows the finish.
All right. I was going to say, like, what if the ref goes 1, 2, 3, and the guy goes, "Fuck, no ref, no, that wasn't supposed to be the finish." Like
Well,
you can't undo
that
that
has
as
happened.
IPD.
I mean, that has happened, and it looks like shit. I mean, there's no way around it, The crowd nowadays is smart. They call them smart marks. A wrestling fan, like a person that goes to a carnival. Do you know about this? They're called a rube.
Sure, Mark. Yep, a rube.
A rube, and a wrestling fan is a mark. So yeah, they're smart marks now. When shit like that happens that you were talking about, the crowd will chant, "You fucked up, you fucked up, you fucked up," like call it out, and they're not shy about it.
I like that fans are called marks because they'll fall for it. They'll fall for the fake wrestling. Let's just call our fans marks.
Yeah, but they're smart marks now. Next match was an NWA match. This is what they called a legacy match. It was Ricky Morton and his son, Kerry Morton. Ricky Morton's 65. His son is 21. They wrestled as a tag team against Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson. Brock Anderson's dad, Arn Anderson, we talked about earlier. He has the podcast. He was a member of the Four Horsemen. Brian Pillman's father, he was also a wrestler. He was in the Four Horsemen at one time. And
kind of like an all-star kind of game. Like, is this a big event that's just bringing everybody back?
Yeah, this was a huge deal, man.
Is this a thing they do often? Because this
was one time only.
Because this is interesting. The sport could use well. I guess it's a sport, right?
Yeah,
it's not really competitive if you're writing scripts, but this is a good thing for wrestling to kind of have these all-star moments.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good because when we get into it, then the main event, Jeff Jarrett, he actually works for the WWF now. And in my heart, I believe that if Vince McMahon was still involved with the WWF, he wouldn't have been allowed to do what he did this past Sunday. He wouldn't have been allowed to wrestle in that match. Like Vince never allowed that shit before. He would never allow you to work for someone else. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. If I hire somebody, you work for me.
But it's good for business, like you said. But like you said, before, right before I said that, it's good for business. Everybody working together.
Yeah, well, maybe when you're not working under a contract right now, like the worst thing to do right now is let your guy go and start dancing over at another league, and then all of a sudden you get swept away by that other league and all that. That's too dangerous for me. I wouldn't do that. I'm with Vince on that. I'd be like, no. You stay the fuck with me.
That's what contracts are for, though. You have a contract to them,
Yeah. You try to tell me that Vince is a bad guy, and I know he's in the news for doing bad shit, and I don't know what it is. But
he's paid out like over $15 million of hush money to females that he had affairs with.
Oh, well.
And they say he claims it's personal.
Okay. Trump did it too. Who knows? Everybody seems to be all right doing that.
Vince claims it was his personal money, but it was personal money that he was taking from the company.
Oh, really? He's fucked. But I don't know. You used to badmouth him when we were doing the show last year. We were doing a bunch of wrestling episodes last year, and you're like, "Oh yeah, he's terrible." I'm like, I don't know. He sounds like a pretty fucking good businessman to me. I mean, he made a lot of fucking money. He figured out how to grow this thing into a universally known brand. I got to think the guy knows something.
All right. Let me ask you how you feel about Vince McMahon after this story.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Owen Hart?
The wrestler, yes.
Owen Hart died in a wrestling ring at a pay-per-view in the 90s. He was attached to a clip. He was supposed to free fall from the ceiling down to the ring. He was a character known as the Blue Blazer. Okay. Whatever the company was that was hired to hook him up to the rig used a carabine, the little clips that was purchased at a convenience store. It was not supposed to hold any weight at all. He fell almost immediately as soon as he was released. He fell, dropped, and died in the ring on live pay-per-view. The match continued. Like, everything kept going.
And that was Vince saying, don't stop, keep going.
Don't stop. The show must go on. Dude, that should have been shut down and a crime scene. Like, he died in the wrestling ring from someone's mistake. And that wasn't investigated. Like, you know, they fucking packed up and left. Like, you know, after the show was over.
Yeah, that's pretty awful.
That's fucking horrible.
That's fucking horrible. Is that why we hate him? Is that the big reason?
That's one of the big reasons why I don't like him. Yeah. I mean, that shit's that's fucked up.
It's like these guys that people badmouth. It's like I don't know enough about them to like have an opinion, but like when you see that they grow these empires, and you're just like, yeah, I can't say the guy sucks if he's got all this, you know, success. So, but if he's done shit like that, he kind of, you know, got to the top being a bad human being. Sure, there's plenty of CEOs that we find out about that are like
right.
That.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he's
so. Yeah, I mean, he might be a smart, you know, businessman and shit, but like to the way that he might have had to do it, you know, that's fucking dirty shit. You know.
Sure, it sounds like he's putting money in front of, you know, humanity.
Yeah, and you know what? Because of all this shit with the Crockett Promotions that we've been talking about, one thing I didn't know about until recently is the very first WrestleMania that Vince had. The money that he got to start to do all that came from the Crockett's. They loaned him the money to do it. And that's then cool. He started buying up all their, or, you know, bringing in all of their wrestlers to work for him.
Oh yeah. No.
So
it's not a whole lot of loyalty in
right.
business. It's like when Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney did a song together on Michael Jackson's album, and they're like, "Oh, we're friends now." Well, we're friends now, right, Michael? That's my best Paul McCartney accent. God, that was awful. That was awful. Edit that out. So he's like, "We're friends now," and then, you know, year later, Michael goes and buys the whole Beatles catalog out from under Paul, and Paul's like, "Yo, like, I'm not that cool with that. I gave my rights away, and then you bought my rights. I was hoping to buy my rights back." And he turns around to Paul and he goes, "It's just business." And like that ended their friendship. But hey, man, that's just business. Like, you don't have to be ethical. You could be a cutthroat business person.
Right.
It's legal.
Yeah. Yeah. Shady, but legal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So back to this card. Got a couple more here. So Brock and Brian won that match against Ricky and his son Kerry. Ricky Morton, for 65 years old, still wrestling. He wrestles, you know, on a weekly basis around the country, mostly East Coast. Still just doing awesome stuff. He looks so good still. Not physically, he doesn't like he looks like an out of shape old man, but he still, like, the stuff that he does is just still looks so good. He got a huge pop as soon as he came in. They started chanting rock and roll, rock and roll. They were known as the Rock and Roll Express. The only thing not a fan of about Ricky is you can see him. They call it calling spots. Like, a lot of guys will work out a match beforehand in the back, but a lot of the old timers they call it calling it in the ring. And like when Ricky's whipping the guy in, you can see him like duck the clothesline. You know, like
really? Who was that guy? Ricky who?
Ricky Morton.
Morton? I thought you said Ricky Martin. You remember Ricky Martin?
Yeah.
I was like, he's a fucking this guy? Hey, I'm coming out to wrestle. Do a body slam. Ricky Morton.
Yeah, buddy. All right, next match. This is the match that stole the show. It was a AAA match, Lucha Libres. It was 4 Mexican wrestlers: Rey Fenix, Bandito, Black Taurus, and the Laredo Kid. This dude, the Black Taurus, I've never seen a lot of these guys before. Black Taurus is a fucking just a big monster of a dude with a bull mask on. Like he's got these big horns, and he did a fucking flip from the top rope, and like it was like a tornado. I don't know how many spins it was, but like onto the other 3 guys from the inside of the ring to the outside. And dude, it was fucking cool. Like, to see a guy that big do something like that. That's pretty cool. That was the first time. No, I don't know if it's the first time it's ever been done, but it's the first time I ever saw it from a guy that size. He also did something else I had never seen before. He was standing on the very top rope, this Black Taurus dude, and he picked a guy up. I can't remember which guy it was, but he gorilla pressed him over his head on the top rope and then fucking threw him off the top rope from there, or threw him off of his hands from there down to the ring. It's pretty cool. That's pretty high up there. I fucking hate you.
I think I've seen that every match. Every wrestling
You've
match
never seen that.
I'm pretty sure I've seen a guy get picked up and thrown.
Not from the top rope.
All right.
Find it. I beg of you to find it.
Was he, because that does sound pretty impressive. Did he have to stand on the it's called the turnbuckle, the post, right?
Yeah.
Did he have to stand on that, or was he actually bouncing like a high wire act like on the rope?
No, he was standing like on the two ropes, like in between the turnbuckle.
Dang, that's good balance.
Yeah. Dude, wait. I mean, I'll post pictures of all these guys in the video if you're watching on YouTube. Wait until you see the size of this guy. He's fucking big. He's huge. Dude, this next match, I couldn't even watch the match. I was that pissed off at this piece of shit. I don't care if he hears this. I hope he hears this. Jacob Fatu, he's a Samoan wrestler. He's fucking gross. Dude, the first two of the first things that I ever learned in the professional wrestling business is, one, you wipe your feet getting into the ring so you don't drag fucking dirt or whatever into the ring where other guys have to wrestle, and don't spit in the ring. Dude, this guy was constantly spitting in the ring. This big fat Samoan dude just constantly spitting his nasty shit in the ring where Ric Flair has to fucking wrestle later. That's fucking gross. And if any wrestler is listening to this and they hear this, fucking comment, because it's fucking gross. Don't do it. I don't fucking care about your match because it pissed me off. The coolest thing about it was Diamond Dallas Page came in at the end and gave one of the dudes a diamond cutter. You know who he is.
I know what a diamond cutter is.
Jerry Lawler was backstage. Do you know who he is? We talked about him last week. He was in the Andy Kaufman thing.
I've heard of a shit cutter. Oh, yeah. You were talking about, sorry. So the King Lawler, he was there?
Yeah, he was there. He was backstage with Jeff Jarrett. They showed him backstage with Jeff Jarrett leading up into the main event. Then we had the Von Erichs versus the Briscoes. This was another MLW match. This is the first time I ever saw the Von Erichs in action. They're also third generation wrestlers. Their dad was a wrestler, Kevin Von Erich. The Briscoes, they're so fun to watch. They're from Sussex County, Delaware. They do redneck kung fu, and it's just they're really entertaining to watch.
Do they walk with their hands like this?
No, that was the Bushwhackers.
Yeah,
these guys actually kind of remind you of the Bushwhackers. They wear those camo pants like the Bushwhackers did.
Be the Bushwhackers, the way they recycle.
Yeah, they
performers. Like, didn't the Ultimate Warrior, didn't he have a couple names?
No, he was the Ultimate Warrior. His real name was James Hellwig. That was always a big rumor that there were multiple Ultimate Warriors. That was never true. No, there was only ever one.
The Ultimate Warrior played another character. He wasn't always the Ultimate Warrior, I thought.
No, he was always the Ultimate Warrior. When he first started, he was the Dingo Warrior.
The Dingo Warrior?
Yeah.
Fuck the Dingo Warrior.
No idea. But that's what his name was. And then he got the WWF, and Vince was like, "What's a dingo?"
I don't even know what a dingo is.
You're the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. Because he doesn't know what dingo is, so he's like, I might be a dingo. I don't want to make fun of me.
Yeah, so this was a fun match. The Von Erichs are young. You know, it was a lot of the Briscoes doing a lot of the work in this match. Cool to see the Von Erichs use their uncle's. He always did like a claw. They did that, and then
like they clawed his head.
Yeah, but the Briscoes won. The Briscoes ended up winning. The next match, this was a semi-main event. It was for the women's knockout championship. This was an Impact Wrestling show. It was Jordan Grace, Deanna Parazzo, and Rachel Ellering. Rachel Ellering's father was the manager of the Legion of Doom and the Road Warriors. They're the same team with just different names. I don't know if you remember them. They wore spikes on their shoulders.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah. So this was their manager, and when this was when he was like their manager when managers in the wrestling business were actually their managers. Like he would get their bookings, he would get paid, he would drive them around, like he would do everything for them, including come out to the ring with them.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, and so that makes me wonder, right? Because I do remember you would meet managers sometimes. Like, who was that Hart guy?
Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South.
Yeah. So was he an actual man? Like, what was he? Because he wasn't a wrestler.
Yeah, he was a manager. He was one of these guys that I'm talking about.
So would he actually do that job, or was he just a character? He just played.
I think by the time that he came around, I think that he was just the character. I don't think he was like, but when Paul Ellering was doing it for the Road Warriors, they were like this was in the territory days. Like he was getting their bookings and he was doing all that stuff for him. He's actually a bodybuilder himself too. He was a really big jack dude.
Yeah.
So his daughter wrestles now, Rachel Ellering. Within the very first minute though, she got hurt pretty bad, for real. There was a move where you could see it in the replay. I watched it back a couple times. Her leg got kind of twisted under the other girl's leg, and the match like really broke down after that. Because when you go into the match, you do have a set, like unless it's the older guys, like I'm saying, these are the younger girls, so they probably worked out the match before they came out to the ring, and within the first minute, it got fucked up because she got hurt. So Deanna Parazzo and Jordan Grace, they started going back and forth. And then Rachel Ellering did come back in, but you could definitely tell she was hurt. Jordan Grace, she's a very little, short. She's probably, 5'1", 5'2", but she's strong. Like she's built like really good and really like strong style, they call it. Like she really, like you can tell she's really hitting pretty damn good. I've seen all these girls wrestle before. They're all really, really good. Jordan Grace won with a real rear naked choke.
What? Naked? It's better been on pay-per-view.
It was. All right, buddy. The main event.
Okay, so now the main event.
The main event.
80-year-old Ric Flair walks out.
73-year-old Ric Flair. His final match against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett wrestled in the WWF for a long, long time. His dad was a promoter, Jerry Jarrett. He's one of the best heels in the business. A heel is a bad guy. When he came out, he immediately started getting booed. He went over to the announce table and they had like all their notes here like this. He fucking picked them up, fucking threw all their notes. So they had no notes for the rest of the match unless they went and picked the shit up. Went down, got right in this fan's face. Like this fan was like, really getting in his face. And Jarrett, did you see him like reach down to the ground? He picked up the dude's beer and fucking dumped it all over the dude. The fan, Jeff Jarrett, the wrestler, fucking sprayed the dude with his own beer.
You haven't been to many rock concerts, have you?
When has a rock performer tried to fight you by throwing beer all over you?
Sebastian Bach grabbed the beer that was thrown on stage, threw it into the audience, and jumped heels first onto the guy's face. Yeah, man. There's footage all over the internet of rock stars having enough and jumping into the crowd. Yeah, man.
Well, this is called getting heat. And it was fucking Jeff Jarrett knows how to do it, man. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So then Andrade comes in. Andrade El Idolo, that's Ric Flair's son-in-law. He's married to Charlotte Flair, who wrestles for the WWF.
Okay.
And then the lights went out. It got dark. It was dark for about a minute and a half, and then Ric Flair's music hit, and he came out in one of the robes that he used to wear, like the old. I'm pretty sure it was a replica. I don't believe it was one of the actual old robes that he used to wear. Looked pretty good. He had the actual NWA belt, the original belt that he always had. He had that. Remember, I told you Conrad is a belt collector.
Mm-hmm.
Conrad actually owns that belt, so he let Rick wear it for the down to the ring for his final match. So I posted that video last week in the YouTube video of the parking lot brawl between Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Remember when I told you he was bleeding all over the place?
Yeah.
And they did that 3-part docuseries.
Yeah.
So I was talking to someone yesterday about this after the show, and I believe that all of those little vignettes that they shot of Ric Flair working out and training for this final match, I believe that that might have been the only training that he did for this match was when they were filming those vignettes.
Oh, yeah? Why? Was he that out of shape when he was up there?
It was not good.
No.
It was good that he got the respect that he should have when he got in there. It started off a little slow, like a little back and forth. Ric Flair started the match with Jeff Jarrett. They circled each other for a little while. They got face to face. Ric Flair slapped Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was like, fuck this. He left. Jay Lethal came in. They went back and forth for a little bit. Ric Flair put him in a side headlock, and he takes him down, puts him in a head scissors. They get up, and they're both back on their feet, and the entire crowd starts to chant, "You still got it. You still got it."
How many people were in there? About 50?
Over 9,000.
9,000 people?
Over 9,000, yeah.
I thought it would be like 50 or 60.
People?
Yeah.
No, remember in the beginning of the show, I told you how it sold out in 3 minutes and 32 seconds?
Yeah, but I thought it was like a high school gymnasium.
Nope. The Nashville Auditorium.
Now, wrestling is like number one on USA Network. That's like 12 people. Didn't we talk about this last week? I'm not going to go down that road again. All right, Ned. All right. It sounded like you had a good time. It sounded
it was
like
awesome.
It was a fun. It's a hell of a lot better than like a conference, like a wrestling conference, right? The con that I call a conference. Like shit, man. If you can make a performance out of it, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like an awesome thing for that.
It was awesome, man. And although the match itself wasn't the best, there was a lot of great moments in it for sure. Like when Andrade and Jay Lethal started fighting, that part was incredible because those are two of the best wrestlers in the world. Flair, slow. He's 73. His punches looked great. His chops looked good because the other guys made him look good. They sold for him, like they made him look as good as they possibly could make a 73-year-old man look in the ring. And he looked pretty good. And then there was some stuff going on the outside with Jeff Jarrett. Ric Flair's family was around ringside. Jeff Jarrett's wife, Karen, was his manager at ringside, and she went over and started shit with Ric Flair's family. This was when Ric Flair got, I think, thrown into a pole, and then it causes the distraction between the family and Karen. Ric Flair gets up, and he's a bloody fucking mess because he.
Well, remember, people are listening to this. What is?
He bladed.
Yeah, he bladed.
Remember we talked about it last week?
That's right. And blading is where you hide a little blade into your belt or your wristband and
tape.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So 73-year-old Ric Flair bled for his final match, and he beat Jeff Jarrett with a figure 4 leg lock in the center of the ring. It's a good show. Awesome show.
Well, for our wrestling fans out there, I hope you all caught it. I don't get it. I don't get any of this. I just don't get it. But I know people are allowed to like things I don't get, Casey.
Yeah.
But they didn't let me be ruler supreme, so I now have to live with the fact that there's wrestling out there.
Hey, I'll tell you what. The next time there's an event that I'm going to, I would like you to join me,
No.
and I will change your mind on wrestling.
Not a chance. Not a chance. I'd like to like anything that's fun, but I get bored of stuff pretty easy.
But you're just not a fun person.
Yeah, I'm not that fun. I guess I'm just not that fun. I am pretty dull. Yeah. I'm at that old age now where it's like I know what I like, what I don't like, and I don't want to do anything I don't like anymore. You know? So it's like, hey, can you help me move? No. What do
Fuck
you mean no?
no.
I'm just like, no.
Those
Done.
days are over.
I'm helping people.
Yeah,
I won't help. Nobody gets free help from me anymore.
I'm with you on that one, bud.
I think all you motherfuckers who know you owe me a favor. It's time to collect.
Cash in.
I need some shit painted and some lawn mowed. So come on over. Who ultimately put that together? If it was all of the different wrestling associations, there's a lot of people with their hands in there going, I want to get some money out of this. Who
Sure.
was it? One league that's like, hey, we're going to bend and let the other leagues in? Or was it no league? Is this just everybody who's independent and not affiliated with anything right now?
So maybe you weren't paying attention at the beginning of the show when I addressed this very question. It was Jim Crockett Promotions. Remember
okay, so it's not a wrestling league; it's a promoter.
No, it was a one-off. They call it a one-off.
Got it. So he would make the deal with pay-per-view and all that, and then he puts it together. He probably hires the crew to do the lights and the sound.
Yep.
So
that was the name put on it, but my belief is that Conrad was the money behind this. The guy that does all the podcasts and he does the Starcast, the wrestling convention. He's the money guy. He actually owns it's like called One World Financial or something like that. It's a huge mortgage company. His Twitter handle is Conrad the Mortgage Guy.
Got it. Yeah.
So he's the money guy. I believe that he's probably the one that put up the money for all this.
I mean, there was probably thousands of people hired, put this whole thing together.
Absolutely. Not only were all those different companies involved, all the different wrestlers, but I didn't even announce, like, for each different match, there was a different referee that works for that company. There was a different announcer that came out and announced with Tony and David for each match.
Yeah.
There was a different ring announcer for each match. Like, there was a lot of people getting paid on that show.
Yeah. It's got to be. You ever see, like, I know you don't watch a lot of the Marvel stuff, but when those trailers roll, there's like 10 billion names. It's like 10 billion people made these movies, and you don't really think that it's that big of an organization. I was reading an article about how it's working right now with Marvel and a lot of these companies that, it's time to make an Ant-Man movie. Who are we going to call to be our special effects teams? Well, we'll use these 10 companies, right? And then it's like, all right, company, we need you to create this scene, whatever it is, right? So the companies are like, all right, we're going to quickly put this scene together. We have exactly a month to do it. The director keeps coming in, but this director has never worked with special effects before, so he's fucking us up. And the article was talking about how the special effects industry is like they're working like crazy, insane hours for Disney, who comes in with these sweetheart deals. And it's like, we're going to sign you for all of our movies for the next, 20 years at a discount. And you guys are going to work doubly hard because we're Disney and we're making Marvel movies and you guys get to be part of it. But the article is like, well, now you sort of understand why you see shitty special effects sometimes. It's bad management. It's bad organization of the big show. We're talking about wrestling. Like, that guy could have fucked up one thing, and next thing you know, it's like you don't have a camera working to really record this thing in a way that matters and is meaningful and people enjoy paying for. And then next thing you know, you never do another one because you fucking screwed up. So a lot of these things, I think you got to take into consideration the team that's behind these things. Otherwise, you would never have this event.
Right.
I don't know. I like that stuff. I just don't think anybody ever thinks about the behind the scenes stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's a huge production.
Yeah.
All right. Like all weekend, the Starcast, the live podcasts, and the not the signings, like none of that stuff was on like the convention floor or anything, but they streamed every live podcast, live Q&A, all that. They streamed all that stuff, like all weekend long, starting on Friday night with the roast of Ric Flair.
The roast? They roasted him?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The only thing I didn't like about that was they had Ty Comey there. He must be friends with Ric Flair. He was an old hockey player.
Okay.
And like you can tell that people wrote jokes for him, and
Yeah.
he obviously didn't read them before he came out on stage, because he read some and he was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I read that. I have daughters." Like
What a dummy.
yeah.
What do you think it's rated? Like, what do they rate these shows now?
The roast? That roast or the wrestling?
I guess I just mean like anything you get on pay-per-view. Like, do they give them rating? Was this on pay-per-view? I assume the roast was on pay-per-view.
The roast was on pay-per-view. Yeah, everything this weekend. It was all pay-per-view. Yeah.
Because I know, like, even though I don't watch wrestling, I know the women have been getting kind of sexy, like even sexier, like nudity almost, like in some of these leagues.
Yeah.
So, do they have a rating? Like, do they say, "Hey, this is a PG event," or "This is going to be a PG-13 event," or "This is all ages"? Like, how do you know when
Well, I
you're
know
walking in?
WWE is up until recently it was PG, and AEW is PG-13 because they're allowed to bleed.
Okay. Yeah, I never heard about ratings on wrestling. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We talked about me doing some news items, but we did go long on this one. But I want to ask you about this news item. Did you hear about the new, Women of Wrestling, the new WOW?
Yes.
You just announced?
Yeah. You know who owns that?
No.
The owner of the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, Jeannie Buss.
So here you go. Are you going to watch WOW Wrestling?
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. Yeah,
that?
Absolutely.
So that's not Glow. That's the same thing as Glow. They're just going to start a new wrestling association.
Basically, yeah. It's actually been going on. I think this is going to be the second or third season now of WOW.
Wow.
And yeah, it's basically the same thing as Glow. Actual trained professional wrestlers. It's pro wrestling. They're not making fun of it or anything. It's wrestling.
Did we need another league?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's a place for wrestlers to work.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't see any problem with anybody who wants to wrestle wrestling, but there's a point where it's like, I like football, but if there were 20 different football leagues, I'd start to dislike football. I'd be frustrated by how much nonsense there is out there.
Well, I mean, personally, I wish there was a lot more wrestling. Like, I wish there was an independent promotion around here. Like,
yeah, I know you.
There's nothing around. There's nothing around here.
Yeah, I know you wish the whole world was still watching wrestling. I know. I know. You love it. Look, I get it, man. You were a wrestler. This is your world. This is what the show's about.
Exactly.
And talk about the things you like.
Exactly.
I'm going to run through a few news items, and we won't go very long, but some of these are a little timely, so I wanted to bring them up to you. Maybe we'll try this segment another time. The new Predator movie. Did you hear about it?
I did not.
New Predator movie coming out called Prey. It's on Hulu. Okay. It's not called Predator. It's called Prey.
Okay.
All right. And I've been hearing about it, but I didn't realize it was it's coming out. Like it's all in August 3rd, I think it comes out on Hulu. And it's a prequel. It goes all the way back to the Comanche tribe.
Oh.
And he's out there, the Predator's out there hunting, right? Natives who know how to hunt like a motherfucker. So it's like amazing hunters against the universe's most amazing hunter. All right. So I heard about it. I went, oh, clever, but I'm kind of burned out on Predator. After the first one, they never made a good one. People like the second one. Some people do because it was a twist on it and they put it, in a city. I didn't like it. First one was great. Never felt like they were able to pull that magic back. This might be interesting. People are saying, Casey, not me. I didn't say it. I didn't see this yet. That it's the best Predator yet. Better than the first one.
People on now.
Really talking about this movie. And supposedly, since it is the word I can't remember, Comanche tribe, right? Even though because it's like they have an English version. Something I read said they actually went back, brought the actors to speak the language in Comanche too. So you can watch either version, like the truest version, or you can watch a version where I guess they speak with English words. So I don't know. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a fan of the Predator, man. I like most of them. this goes back to a while ago when we talked about fan films.
Mhm.
Remember the Predator with that I talked about in that the Predator fan film? That was a really cool
Yeah.
one with when they went back to like the Middle Ages.
Yeah, I wasn't into that. The Predator versus Aliens, like, it's too on the too fan servicey for me. But I think there is a good story in that Predator world that I don't think they really fleshed out yet.
Yeah, I'm
No?
looking forward to this. I had not heard about this until right now.
Good. Let me see if I can find some other news for you here. Let me
All
see what I
right.
can do on my list here. I noted. So they're talking about we're talking about wrestlers who are too old and shouldn't be getting back up on stage.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Rocky was too old and shouldn't have been getting back into that ring. So eventually, what they started to do was they made Creed movies.
Yeah.
So now they're talking about another spinoff from Creed on the Drago character.
I heard about this.
Would you want to see this?
I would
Yeah.
if Sylvester Stallone wrote it. And you know that's why this is in the news.
Why?
It was stolen from like they're writing their own backstory for Drago. What's his name? Dolph Lundgren. He has something to do with this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Sly is not happy about it.
Some further research needs to be done here. No, that story, I didn't pick that tidbit up at all. Interesting. Yeah. So there's some drama there.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I saw it on Sylvester Stallone's Instagram account. He tweeted or he Instagrammed it, maybe tweeted about it as well. But he posted, he was like, I thought we were friends. Like, you know, how can you do this?
Oh, so weird. He put his dirty laundry out there in public.
Yeah. Like he's not involved with it at all. It's like his characters, you know, they're his characters.
Yeah. I don't think you could just take them and just do something with them. Okay. Well, then I gotta look up. We're gonna have some news next week too, as I dig further into this bullshit. So, like, I love Sylvester Stallone because being a Philly kid, like, I remember being a kid and seeing pictures of him at my mom's birthday party or something like that. Like, it's crazy. He's always been around, and people, you know, who have met him have always said he's a dick and shit like that. And I'm always sad about that. I'm like, I want to be great because love Rocky, Philly kid, love Rocky. Everybody loves Rocky around here, but it's like maybe he's done. Maybe we ought to just say, hey, Sylvester Stallone, it's time to close it up and go to bed. Because I've been seeing lots of bad shit that he's in the last 10 years. But then I just saw a trailer for a movie called The Samaritan. Have you seen this?
I've seen the preview. Yeah, that looks good.
Looks great in it. The only problem is I can't understand a fucking word Sylvester Stallone is saying. What? It's like crazy. Like you can't hear the guy anymore. He makes no sense. So the Samaritan he's like, it's basically Hancock with Will Smith. They bump into this guy who, hey, look, you have superpowers. I don't talk about that anymore. And then they're like, oh, you know, you can. I'm old and I'm grumpy. It's there's not much to it. But I was like, the special effects are good. He still looks cool. It's just unbelievable. You can't tell what the fucking guy is saying.
Yeah.
Hey, Samaritan, we have a bad guy. You gonna punch him? You gonna take care of him? Am I safe or should I be worried? Rock.
Going back to you said how you hear stories about him being a dick. I heard a story one time. I think it was I can't remember who told this story. It was on a podcast, but they were in a movie with Sylvester Stallone, and they got a call from like his manager or whatever, and they were like, "Hey, Rocky really likes that tape Sly really likes that tape that you were using the other day, and he ran out of it." And he's like, could you bring that with the next time? He's, yeah, sure, no problem, you know. Or it was like some kind of like rub or something. I forget exactly what it was. But the guy said like whatever it was really expensive and really hard to find. Like it's not something that you can just go to a store and buy, you know, it's like a specialty product. So he let him use it, and he was trying to get it back at the end of the day, and Rocky just like Sly just left with it. He's like, hey, can I get that cream back? No, thanks, man. Like, he wouldn't give it back to him.
but I didn't cream rash. I gotta put it on the testicles. Keep it, Rock. You can keep it. I mean, some of these guys, I love them because they're from our day. More news: Beverly Hills Cop 4. Sounds like it's going to finally happen. Sounds like it's going to be on Netflix. Do we care? Like, do you care? Who cares?
They needed that franchise.
But they gotta. I don't know. I did like Coming to America too, but like, don't care. Are you going to go see Beverly Hills Cop 4? Have you been going, oh, I can't wait to see what Axel Foley's up to now? Like, why are you making this movie?
They obviously need money.
I guess. Is that what's going to happen now? Like every Top Gun 2, everything's going to start happening for some of these old actors that people still like, but nobody wants to hire.
Yeah.
Like who else would be on that list? Eddie Murphy's kind of on that list, I think. Like Billy Crystal. Like I'd like to see Billy Crystal in something, but who's looking for Billy Crystal?
Haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah. Where's City Slickers 3? It's got to be coming. That's what I'm talking about. It's crazy. You watch the show Picard on Paramount? The trailer that just dropped is basically every cast member from the Star Trek The Next Generation is coming back. Everything comes back. And I like it from a fan service perspective, but it's also like, you better be making a good story. I don't want to see all these characters again and have the story suck. We got burned with Star Wars. When they brought back Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and all that, you just have no idea how elated I was. And then when they were on the screen, you're like, I hate these guys. These guys suck old. And every time you watch in like their earlier movies, you're like, yeah, now I know this guy gets old, becomes an asshole, and she dies, and he dies his dumb way. Like it does sort of fuck with the story. Yeah. So I don't know. I wish they'd be a little bit more particular. Because I don't like just how they just are like, we're just going to cash. It's people with no artistic integrity taking something that's great that people love and just squeezing blood out of the stone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, with the Star Wars world that you were talking about last week, or whenever we talked about the franchises, hopefully with Jon Favreau, things will turn around.
They have a show now. Just the trailer came out. It's called Andor, and it's one of the characters from one of the offshoot Star Wars movies. It's called Rogue One. It's not even a Star Wars movie. It's a standalone side story. I don't think it has any original character in it. And it's actually a great movie. But now they're like, hey, you know what we need? We need a TV show of one of those ancillary characters. And it was just announced. And I'm like, who's going to watch this? But I will. Damn it. It looks cool. It looks okay, but it doesn't look like it's going to blow my doors off. But yeah, I'm going to watch it. I had to watch
Star Wars
Miss Marvel thing the other day. They got a show called Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, right? And because I put all this time into the Marvel stuff, I had to watch Miss Marvel, which is a show aimed for kids, clearly. So now I'm watching kids shows to make sure that I'm all caught up in this cinematic universe, to make sure I don't miss a thing when they go into their future Avengers episodes where the whole worlds are all colliding. You ought to hear what they just announced at Comic-Con. It's going to be insane what happens in a couple of years with the Marvel universe.
Jesus Christ.
It's super ambitious. That multiverse of madness is just the start of it. The grand finale is going to be all the multiverses and all the heroes and all those multiverses kind of leaking out and fighting each other. So you'll get Iron Man, but you'll get like 50 different people playing Iron Man. I don't know how they're going to do it. It all gets too big. And I think when things get too big and they force concepts, they don't force good stories. And that's what Hollywood is missing. Good stories. I think, Casey, that's what I think. You don't think this, Casey. I think this.
These are Bill's opinions.
This is just my opinions. But yeah, a lot going on in the news. And the only other item I had, I so seamlessly worked in every one of these bullets. I had 10 bullets and they all worked their way in, except this last one. We were talking about Star Trek. Nichelle Nichols died. Nichelle Nichols, Aura. So I think there's only 2 people left from Star Trek. Right? They're all dead. Except George Takei and William Shatner. And they hate each other. That is so much fun. They hate each other. They take shots at each other on in the media. I can't wait to see which one lives and which one
Oh my.
Oh my. He's still on Stern every once in a while. And he's just his voice is the best.
Yeah.
Guacamole. He says all these words like, agua. Like he won't say it like us stupid people who say, aqua. You know what I mean? Like he has to say it with the proper, enunciation. Agua.
George still gets like I've go to these conventions as well, and like as old as George is, he's in his 80s, right? Like his lines are still so fucking long. It's like, dude, how haven't all of these people in line already not met you? You're 87 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like he does cons constantly, and his lines are always long. Like people love him.
Yeah. Well,
Except William Shatner.
Oh, Georgie boy, I don't know why you keep bad-mouthing me in the press. Maybe you're just a bitter old actor who can't get work. Fuck you, Shatner. He's so good. Stern does a great bit where they get an impressionist of William Shatner. It's perfect. And an impressionist of George Takei, and they just argue. And it's like, I love that bit when he does it because they find amazing impressions. They used to have a David Letterman guy on.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, what's up? I'm David Letterman. He'd say something absolutely offensive, and then somebody on the phone would be like, are you really David Letterman? So they do that with some of these characters. And it's remarkable how just dead on they sound. Yeah. And there's people that to this day, I'm sure from that show went, I'll never forget that time Arnold Schwarzenegger called me and asked me what I was wearing. Like, dude, you were pranked. Like, I wonder if they ever tell these people you were pranked by an impression. These people believe it. Is that really you? Yeah, it's really me. Okay, I'll believe it. Yeah, Schwarzenegger's calling you. Nobody's calling you. Whoever you
Nobody. Are. All right, Bill. This was a fun one, bud.
All right.
Hope everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, kind of a free form, just kind of going, shooting the shit.
Yep.
We promised last episode we would stay on schedule. And even when we didn't have anything quite planned, we kept our promise.
Yes, we did.
All right, until next time. This is where the music. Free editing here. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.